you pay a certain amount of money for every patient, but limited companies have to give money to their shareholders. We go back to this.
Profit, if we get the value we expect, if we get what we want for it, it doesn't really matter to me whether the GP has got a rusty Ford Escort on the drive or a nice Rolls Royce. Providing I'm paying him a fair value and I'm getting the right services, then I think that's fair. So if they can make a profit at it, then I think good luck to them, because that gives employment to staff and so on. I don't think it detracts from the quality of service.
What criteria have you put in place to ensure that we don't build our practice when the person who takes it over decides that they can't make a go of it, they can't make any money for their shareholders out of it, so I was going to use a vulgar word, I won't, they're going to go away.
We scrutinise how they are going to run their business, and if they can't prove that they are going to run it in a certain way and have all their HR policies and praise people and offer them training, all of that sort of thing, we don't want to entertain them as a potential provider.
Can you sort of guarantee that we'll get some decent doctors? How do you feel that?
I understand completely how you feel, and as I saw the heads nodding as you said that statement, I know exactly how you feel. Top of our list have been issues around access and continuity, and clearly we're going to make sure that they have policies in place to make sure that the doctors that work at the surgery have got the appropriate qualifications, speak appropriate languages, have got an appropriate understanding of how the health service works, and that they're the kind of doctors who are going to want to stay in the practice so that they can provide you with the care that you need month after month, year after year. It is our top priority in this procurement is to try and make sure that this practice has in it the doctors that you want to see there, that you will have confidence in.
I absolutely believe that the NHS should be the best possible service that we can have. I think it's absolutely vital that as soon as possible we get permanent doctors in place, because they're completely different. You want to see somebody you can build up a relationship with and who gets to know you. These will be fresh faces to you, but at least they are going to take a long-term commitment to the practice. So I hope you'll give them every chance to go with it. It means we'll have one more permanent member of the doctor's team, which will be an advantage. We won't need to be using locums the whole time, so I think that should be a real strength.
It's really kind of our ethos as a business, and I guess one of the fundamental reasons why we're successful about taking over practices such as the Broadway practice. Looking at our achievements over the years since 2006 when we set up, the first practices that we took on were really sort of fairly low performing practices within Southwark.
When we first took over the practice, in particular Melbourne Grove, the patients were waiting 4 to 6 weeks to be able to see a GP with no on-the-day access. And we turned that around so every patient we guarantee that they can be seen within 48 hours.
As you all know, we're going through quite difficult times at the moment. So it's important that this is your practice, that you get involved in it.
It's really about tailoring the healthcare services we provide to better meet the needs of the locality.
Save our health centre! Save our health centre!
I've been a patient at this surgery for about 5 or 6 years now, and until recently this was one of the best doctors' surgeries I've ever had the privilege to use. Since Concordia, a private company, took over the running of this surgery about 5 months ago, things have gone into meltdown. We've lost 3 doctors, we've lost a practice manager, and at this present moment in time my understanding is that this surgery has been run by 2 locums. which is not acceptable. One of the things that absolutely disgusts me is the way in which the people who run this surgery have not communicated with the patients over the past 6 months. Concordia should be ashamed. I thought that patients come first, not commercial confidentiality and not profits.
Recently I had a letter from the health centre asking me to see a doctor for results from the hospital, but when I tried to make an appointment they didn't have one available. I had to wait a couple of weeks, and another time recently a nurse gave me a prescription. She said, I'll get a doctor to sign it for you. She came back and said, I'm sorry, but there are no doctors on the premises.
Suddenly, since this new company's taken over, we get different GPs every time. We don't see the same person twice. I don't care what colour they are, black, white, green, yellow, as long as we get some continuity. That's what patients need, especially long-term patients.
I had to come for a blood test. I had a letter from the clinic saying phone up for an appointment. When I phoned up to make this appointment, they said we've got nobody here to do it.
Since we've been here for the last couple of weeks, we've seen 3 different doctors, and each doctor's given us a different solution to the problem. It's just not good enough. Not good enough. And my wife's got breast cancer.
What do you want to see happen?
Concordia to lose the contract totally and give it to somebody a bit more patient care. That's the most important thing. I think this Concordia it's focused far too much, I think, on the money aspect of things.
We can't go into the very specific reasons of actually why an individual has left the practice, because it's a personal reason between the individual doctor and the practice, and it'll be, unfortunately it's confidential, so I can't explain to you exactly the reason.
We did make mistakes with the initial 3 doctors. We have learned through the process, and we will now make sure that we recruit doctors that are here to stay.
And I think the misconception is that we don't have doctors. It's not that we don't have doctors. We have the same number of doctors. We have the same number of doctors now than we would do when we recruit doctors. It's just the doctors that we're using are locum doctors.
So if you can't retain the doctors you've got on the salaries that you want to pay them, how are you funding the locums, and how are you going to fund them for the next 6 months?
We might make a loss. We're prepared to do that to provide
quality
service.
Well,
no,
why can't we?
Businesses don't make a loss.
Well, they do make a loss.
No,
especially
businesses
in
that
this,
make a loss.
That's what
Businesses make a loss,
happens.
go bust.
When you're recruiting GPs, at least one of them should be an experienced GP.
That's what we're looking for.
Because I was misdiagnosed, and hopefully, it didn't matter, but they were obviously not very experienced ones.
Yeah, we're looking for at least one that will be the practice clinical lead. So they've got to have had at least 3 to 4 years as a qualified GP.
That you work for Concordia. Do you work for the NHS?
Yes. In the case of Concordia, the NHS commissions Concordia to provide not 1 but 7 GP practices.
And it's just that you sound very loyal to Concordia.
The only difference is that instead of the money going straight into a GP's pocket to finance his children's private education, it goes to Concordia as a company.
You were not visible.
No, we weren't.
At the outset.
No, right.
And that is why people resorted to becoming vocal, and that's why the publicity, the bad publicity has snowballed. You've got a black mark.
We can dwell on what's happened in the past, we can give you enough explanations to spend hours and hours about what's happened. There's been mistakes that's happened in the past, and we'd really like to focus on the future.
Has Concordia suffered from similar problems to the ones that we're experiencing in other of its practices that it owns?
No.
So this is the worst case. There's never been any similar kind of problems in any part, in any of the clinics in London?
was quite a surprising meeting. I mean, I was like most other people who went to that meeting, thinking Concordia was going to pull out and it was walking away from the contract. And it was a bit of a revelation to discover that that wasn't the case, that Concordia was actually using the pull-out from the contract as a bargaining tool to get better terms and conditions. So they're reapplying to run the surgery, which is absolutely audacious. It just shows what a greedy, grasping, nasty bunch Concordia are. They've caused so much disruption and so much worry amongst the patients of the Broadway Health Centre, just in order to try to screw more money out of the NHS. So it was a disgusting bargaining ploy, which shows that if you start mixing private companies with the NHS, this is what you're going to get. And at that meeting, they said that they'd done exactly the same thing in Dover. Tony Martin, the chair of the clinical commissioning group for THANET, put forward a plan that local GPs could possibly run the practice in Broadway instead of Concordia, and I don't think anybody was expecting that, especially Concordia. And I saw the look on the Concordia guy's face when this was announced, and I think he was well upset. I always used to think that, you know, the NHS was something provided by the state for people who needed it, but no, it's not. It's like a cattle market, it really is. You've got all these different groups and trusts all piled on top of each other, all with different responsibilities, all competing. It's absolutely madness. Why can't you have a single NHS without all these stupid organisations inside of it, that's properly funded, that delivers care provided by the state, without all this nonsense that lets in idiots like Concordia?